I think it was reinforced. This mindset of like, I don't belong here was reinforced again by the time
Yeah,
that I spent in China. So it was reinforced by
that's right.
my own like experience just as Mexican American, a missionary kid, um, and then reinforced by that theology that I was exposed to at a very impressionable age, and then reinforced by my experience on the mission field. And so coming back to the States, my first election as the minister at my congregation, that is, the congregation, especially at the time, less so now, unfortunately, was very much a purple congregation. So I'm
Hmm.
I'm in the position where I'm the minister that's just come from China, and I'm now preaching at a church that is both Republican and Democrat in a very controversial election season. That year and a half leading up to uh, the election of President Trump. It was just that was a difficult time for everybody,
Yeah,
and so I'm
yeah.
doing my best to kind of navigate that. And it felt at the time very authentic for me to be able to say, here's where I'm at. And I don't ascribe to either one of these two parties. In fact, I feel like there's something so much more important than these parties. That can we talk
Hmm.
about that instead, right? It's a little bit of what we're talking about with regard to gender roles, as opposed to, what's the agenda here? What are we ultimately talking about?
Yeah.
So for me, part of my decision is it's a very intentional decision to say, like, I'm not going to vote. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be involved. It doesn't mean that I don't care about these things that are happening in my. It doesn't even mean that I won't go out and protest in certain contexts or situations. It certainly doesn't mean that I won't write, my council member or call them or whatever. It doesn't mean that, but it does mean that like I'm making this conscious choice as a reminder to me and the people around me that there is something more important than this, right?
Yes.
There is something that matters more than these discussions that can be so like knock down, drag out, like divisive for the church in the United States.